Welcome again to another episode of California Unfiltered, where we deep dive into the stories shaping our state's future, or nation state, if you will. I'm your host, Marc Ruiz Evans, and this is episode 4. Today, we're covering some major developments. Donald Trump made a controversial statement about the elimination of all blue states in the future of America, and longtime Democratic strategist James Carville predicted that the best thing Democrats can do to fight Trump is absolutely nothing. We'll also have some updates on the CalExit movement and their new threshold of approaching about 100,000 signatures, and we'll all have it coming up very soon. Stay with us for California Unfiltered. Okay, well, welcome back. This is our first segment. It's going to be on Trump's comments on blue states. Our first story today focuses on former President Trump's recent statements suggesting blue states might, quote, disappear off the map. Let's analyze what this means for California and other Democratic strongholds. Well, I managed to look into this a little bit today. He did say this. So Donald Trump did say he had a warning for the blue states that go for the Democrats. The red states are doing, the red states are going to do good. And the blue states, I don't know. Maybe they'll totally disappear off that map, meaning the map of America.
The red states are going to do good, and the blue states, I don't know. Maybe they'll totally disappear off that map.
Now, if you look, well, what he was referring to was the upcoming midterms. He expressed confidence on Thursday night that his Republican Party would prevail in the 2026 elections, keeping its total control of the federal government. So he was speaking to a bunch of governors about the upcoming midterm elections. So typically, when you win a presidential election, even if you sweep it, there could be a pushback at the midterm election. So traditionally, whatever party won the presidency, and especially if they won it in a sweeping fashion, the American electorate does this bizarre thing where they vote for the total opposite party at midterms 2 years later, making it really difficult for the group they voted into the presidency to get anything done. This is classic American politics. It goes back decades. So traditionally, this has happened so many times. Basically, people predict now that it's a given that the party that lost the presidential election will definitely win the midterm elections. Trump is throwing a red herring on that and saying, I'm not sure that's true. And I'm not sure that's true this time. Normally, if anybody else made that prediction, they would be dismissed. But Donald Trump making the prediction has weight simply because traditional politics don't apply to him. Experts try to predict him and predict his moves, and then he'll do something totally that was unpredictable. And traditional rules of politics don't apply to him. For example, if you went back 10 years ago and you said a convicted felon's going to run for president, everybody would say they won't even be allowed to run, or the party wouldn't even nominate them, or the people on that side would run for them. Trump disproved all of that. So that's just one example of you can't apply traditional politics to this person because he is so untraditional and outlandish. So based upon that, it does carry some weight that he's saying the traditional metrics of the opposition party gaining the midterms may not apply to me and my presidency because I'm so different and unorthodox. Frankly speaking, that could be true. We just don't know. I never thought I'd see somebody lead an insurrection on the Capitol and then win the majority vote. If you had told me that that would happen before it did, I would have said that's impossible. I was completely wrong. And yet I still think that my prediction years ago would have been accurate and logical. Things change very quickly and radically with Trump. If the Republicans hold on to the midterms, you can expect to see two different things. A lot more dismay with Democrats because they were shocked that Trump was able to run 3 times. They were shocked that he was able to win an election twice, and they were shocked that he won the popular vote after supporting an insurrection. If he then wins the midterms and the traditional election math of at least you get to win the midterms if you lost the presidential vote would be removed would be such a shock to Democrats that they might lose all faith in the American political system altogether. So whenever people lose an election, they take it very poorly, and it's very divisive here in America over the last 2 decades. However, they'll tell themselves, well, in 2 years, we get another chance. And it kind of eases off the anger. If that, all I got to do is wait 2 years, calculation is wiped out because Donald Trump's able to keep the Republicans in power in the midterm elections, you could start to see an even higher level of dismay with liberals across America. What it will definitely do in California is encourage more people for CalExit. So a lot of the people who aren't on board with CalExit still think, one more election or we can use the federal system to fix this. If Trump defies the traditional election math and maintains control through the presidential election and through the next midterms, that will shock a lot of people and show them that traditional norms in America are even more dead than they had previously estimated. And you could see a lot of people flooding to CalExit from that. Absolutely. We'll have to wait 2 years to see, but those are all possibilities. Okay, moving on to our next segment. Expert and longtime Democratic strategist James Carville was asked about how should Democrats respond to Donald Trump in his new era as America's president for a second time. Carville had some interesting things to say. He suggested that basically that Democrats should do nothing but sit back and watch. Like, don't even try to fight it. Just let the Republicans do their thing.
Man, I'm telling the Democrats, just sit there, play possum, let them go, let them go, let them go. Poll numbers are declining. The collapse is already underway.
His argument is that the Republicans are so bad at governing that if the Democrats pull back and don't interact, the Republicans will show themselves to be bad at governing, and then the Democrats can come and sweep a future election. It also means that he's telling Democrats don't fight or push back on Trump at all. Just let him have the thing and let the amount of damage that he can bring go through so that the Democrats can win even bigger in the future election, which seems a little cruel and an abdication of your duty. Anyways, this is what the news said. This is from an article on Daily Beast. James Carville says the Democrats should play dead to beat Trump. Quote, "The strategic retreat is necessary because the Democrats have no leader and no control over any branch of government," argues the 80-year-old CNN commentator who was the lead strategist on Bill Clinton's 1992 electoral win. 1992, when Bill Clinton became America's president, was when James Carville and there's another guy on CNN who got very famous during that time. Let me say the other thing that James Carville said. He also said this would be a wiser approach than the resistance politics, which he says the Democrats tried and failed during Trump's first term. So I want to point something out. James Carville is using CalExit talking points. So these two talking points are straight up CalExit talking points. I'm sure he's not a supporter of CalExit or maybe even a member. But when he says that the Democrats have effectively no control in this government, he's true. We've been saying that. So the Republicans own the House, the Senate, and the presidency. But you got to go back more than a century or around a century to find where one party owned not all three branches, but all four branches: Senate, House, presidency, and the Supreme Court. To form a quadfecta and not just a trifecta is exceptionally rare. A lot of critics have said, well, the Republicans swept the election, but this happens. Bush W got it. And, it comes and goes every couple of years. True. But one party owning all four branches does not come every couple of years. It comes about once a century. And that's what's going on right now. So Carville seems to be admitting what only CalExit was admitting. The Republicans are more ascendant and in power than they've been in a long time, basically to the point that the Democrats are effectively politically neutered. Totally agree. Thanks, James. The other thing that he said was that the resistance movement failed to stop Trump and didn't do much. We said that here at CalExit. Nobody wanted to hear that. Nobody wanted to listen to that message. We told everybody in 2016 the resist movement's going to fail because the federal government trumps state government, pardon the pun. Nobody wanted to hear that. They wanted to hear the federal courts were going to get him and some sort of investigation by the FBI was going to take him down. 2 impeachment trials, 5 to 7 federal and state court investigations and insurrection, 3 terms. You didn't stop anything. He's still here. Trumpism is ascendant and more powerful than ever. So they literally threw everything the system had at Trump, and it did nothing. He's more powerful now than ever. So we totally agree. The resistance movement was a complete and total failure and didn't do anything to protect California, especially from Trump. As we like to point out here, before the Supreme Court was conservative, California lost half the time to Trump in those court battles. Now California is going to go into a 4-year fight with Trump with a Supreme Court that's more conservative than it's been in 90 years, according to NPR News. California lost half the time with a moderate court, and now it's going to go up against Trump with a hand-picked Trumpian alt-conservative court. Just think about that and how well that's going to work out. So totally agree with James Carville. The resistance movement by the Democrats was a complete failure, and Democrats basically don't have any more power right now to a large historical degree. Okay. Now we're going to move on to our last segment. It's an update on the CalExit movement. What's going on with CalExit? I was able to do an interview with a couple mainstream television reporters today, at least 2 of them, and I gave them both the same answer. I'll just read you the message that I gave them. We at CalExit probably have 100,000 signatures collected so far and turned into county registrars of voters across California. We have asked people to turn the petitions in directly to the local county registrar of voters. About 30,000 people have been emailed the petition, and each one of them said they were asking about 3 to 4 other people to sign it. So when they asked for the petition, they would say, I have 3 or 4 other people I'm giving this to. When you look at that numbers, we're looking at about 90 to 120,000 people have personally received a copy of the initiative electronically. In addition, we have shared the platform, the petition to download on multiple social media platforms, including a TikTok account with an average of 10,000 people participating in it daily. So that's a rotating number of humans that come in and out on that TikTok, see the petition, and then leave. When you add that all up, we're about in the 100,000 range. The other major development, CalExit, is that we attracted a whale to our movement. Sir Dr. Xavier Mitchell is a multimillionaire who owns 6 publicly traded companies, a nonprofit in San Diego that has received statewide attention, and is close personal friends with Shirley Weber, who is the 3rd most powerful politician in all of California. He kept emailing us for weeks, and then our CEO, now chairman of the board, Jason Wright, spent about 40 hours with him on the phone. After that, Jason and I went down to his house in Calabasas. He lives on a hill overlooking the entire valley, and met with him for 10 hours on one day and 8 hours on the next day. For the record, the Kardashian family lives in Calabasas, so that you understand the kind of wealth there. We went up there. Dr. X lived in a private gated community in the city that the Kardashians live in. And then when you went to his house, it was a separate half-mile long road that went straight up to the top of the hill that nobody else in the gated community had. He went up to the top of the hill, and we were pretty sure we saw Jennifer Aniston's house like across the thing. It was incredible, just an incredible view. And if you know anything about LA real estate, that what I just told you says everything. You can look for Sir Dr. Xavier Mitchell appointed as new CEO of CalExit, or you can look at Sir Dr. Xavier X. Mitchell, Chief Executive Officer of Valiant Eagle Incorporated on LinkedIn to learn more about him. The doctor's plans, along with Chairman of the Board Jason Wright, is to launch a new corporation to be an umbrella corporation, or S Corp or C Corp, to cover many different CalExit activities. One of the major developments is an NFT, non-fungible token, called Cali Nation Coin, which will be used to fund CalExit signature gathering and be a prototype for the future currency of an independent California. The doctor estimates that we could raise about $12 million in valuation from this coin. The coin will be in the image of Califia, who's the mythical African warrior princess who California is named after, from the Spaniards who discovered California roughly around 1500, so technically the medieval ages. The money will be used to build a professional organization to organize volunteers to collect signatures around California, especially in major metro areas such as Los Angeles, East Los Angeles, San Diego, Sacramento, East Bay, and San Francisco area. It will also be used to pay professional signature gatherers to collect the remaining signatures that needs to be collected. An important note is that other organizations were able to collect all the signatures they needed to qualify an initiative in the past in just one weekend by hiring signature gatherers. This famously happened with Tim Draper's 2 separate initiatives. So the plan is to organize signature gathering up and down and then to buy out the remaining signature gatherers who might be able to get all done in like 2 days once you have the money collected. Jason Wright and myself have been interviewing high-ranking professionals in different fields who want to volunteer and are placing all of these highly skilled people into this new corporate structure. For example, we talked to an ex-head of the California Democratic Party, the actual person who ran the California Democratic Party for a couple of years. We also talked to an ex-official who worked personally for Jimmy Carter when he was president, a Hollywood movie producer, media director who worked personally for Joe Biden until a few months ago, and also ran the campaign for federal secretary and former California Attorney General Javier Becerra, and a former branding expert who has worked for big corporations. Other people who we brought on are computer programmers and know Python script, or have helped run a signature drive for their local church, or work in corporate America, writing press releases for major Fortune 500 companies. We're bringing all these skilled people in together. That's helping our new incorporated CalExit Now movement grow exceptionally fast with capabilities that rival a major fully functioning corporation. The skill sets of people joining CalExit in 2024 blow away the skill sets of people that joined in CalExit in 2016. I was there in 2016. People cared, and they were passionate, and they were awesome. This time around, we're seeing a lot of people who are in the managerial and professional class join. It's kind of a different look, and we have a lot more skills on board. We have also recently formed our Medical Advisory Council. Dr. Nina Robinson of Beverly Hills and Dr. Ted Masick of Riverside County, who was formerly a spokesperson for the Riverside County medical community, are on the team so far. These doctors are working on developing a list of issues that CalExit could solve. For example, there is an acute lack of hospital beds and doctors in California. This problem existed before COVID-19 and has only grown worse. CalExit is proposing that an independent California could address these 2 issues and provide additional resources with independence that would solve these 2 big pressing problems. They are also developing language that could be used to push the idea of creating a single-payer healthcare system in California with independence that would, quotes, maintain choice and, quotes, not be based on the Canadian model, end quote. We have been told that if we do this, many more doctors across California will join CalExit. Dr. X, now the CEO of the CalExit Corporation, aims to have a council of experts for every major industry in California. He wants to bring together agricultural experts to make a farm council, a transportation council, and an entertainment industry council, along with many others. The idea is that the CalExit movement will start pushing select policies that we know are desired by every major industry in California as we ramp up support for the signature gathering campaign. Our new incorporated body is developed enough that we are creating the pitch deck to approach potential big money investors by the end of this week. Given how many multimillionaires Dr. X knows and how many professionals in his personal circle who have already signed on to the official California CalExit movement, we believe that the Dr. X will be able to reach out to more of the moneyed class of California and raise a great deal of funds and bring on even more highly skilled Californians. Many exceptionally wealthy people live in LA and lost their homes in the Palisades fire and were enraged when Trump suggested that he may not help Californians because he doesn't really like us. Dr. X knows a good chunk of those people and is creating the investment vehicle that will be attractive for all of these 1%ers to join. We believe that that will put the CalExit movement into the winning threshold. And that's it for the update on CalExit. Well, that wraps up another episode of our show, California Unfiltered. We've covered significant ground today, from Trump's provocative statements about blue states to our deep dive into California's exit, to recommendations from top Democratic officials that absolutely mirror the recommendations and predictions made by us here at the CalExit movement. I'm your host, Marc Ruiz Evans. Remember to subscribe to our podcast, to follow us on social media for updates in between episodes. Stay informed, stay engaged, and keep watching. Until next time, this is Marc Ruiz Evans signing off. See you soon, California. So far, I've done great, but that's my normal thing. I always do good, but I'm always nervous, right? Because you never know. You never know what they're going to do until they do it, right? And they can cut things a certain way. They can do things.
A radical idea is once again in the headlines. It is a push for California to secede from the United States. Our Max Darrow traveled to Fresno to meet the man driving the CalExit movement.
And Fresno native Marc Ruiz Evans is leading the way.
Everybody thought I was insane when I proposed this originally, and everybody said it was going to go nowhere.
Ruiz Evans is advocating for California to secede and become an independent nation in what has become known as CalExit.
I think California values are completely different from American values, and they've been that way for a long time.
Every day, he has conversation after conversation, working to raise awareness to his cause.
So I've learned don't count your eggs till they're hatched, right? Or yeah, the Comedy Central show was great. I got a little bit of criticism because I lied on top of the state seal on the ground of the California bear, and I was like caressing the bear's back. And people were like, well, that's kind of unprofessional. However, it's Comedy Central, and they didn't have to air the episode. Even if reporters come out and interview you and spend a day, that doesn't mean it'll ever see the light of day. It also doesn't mean that they won't cut it out in a way to make you look horrible. You have no control and absolutely no idea of what's going to happen. It's literally like throwing things into a black hole, and you just hope for the best. So we thought if we put a little bit of comedy in there, Comedy Central would definitely include our segment. And that's literally what happened. We had the largest segment of the 3 separate groups that were interviewed. And now we're getting even more interviews. We're supposedly going to have the CBS San Francisco interview air tonight.
Ruiz Evans says the idea for this movement actually came well before President Trump's first term in office.
I got the idea in 2007.
But with Trump winning a second election,
For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day.
and more than 77 million Americans voting in favor of putting him back in the Oval Office, Ruiz Evans says the CalExit movement has gained new and significant traction.
And they also came down to my house to personally film me there. So they put 3 different reporters on this. It's taken them 2 weeks. Supposedly it's going to cover us in depth, all the other members, the summit, and where we are. And it's going to announce that we made 100,000 signatures. Supposedly, again, you don't never know. But that's the information we put into the black hole, and supposedly that comes out tonight. So if so, that would be really cool. We'll see.